Well, hey, and welcome to this video teaching series on the Old Testament book of Habakkuk. I'm excited for this study. It's not a very well-known book in the Bible, but it is just packed full of great truth for our lives today. So in this first video, let me just kind of give you a quick overview of where we're going to be going with this book, kind of about this study so you know what you are getting into here. This study will take about 10 videos, which can be done in 3 to 5 sessions, depending on how many videos you want to do per session. The book of Habakkuk is a relatively short book, just 3 chapters, totaling about 56 verses, but again, there's a lot crammed into those verses, and so we'll try to break it up into about 10 videos. Now, what I'd like you to do as you study this, whether you're doing this on your own or in a small group setting, is before you go into each session, read the section of Scripture that we're going to be going over ahead of time. This is a simple book. You could actually sit down and read it several times all together, but read the section that we're going to be looking at ahead of time, and then so you can be prepared for it, and then again, after the video and the discussion, go back and read it again on your own. Now, these videos are designed to inform and then spark discussion. What we mean by that is we want to try to provide some truth and insight into understanding what these verses are all about, but they're also meant to spark discussion and questions for your own thought, or if you're doing this as a group, to think about and discuss as a group. And so each video will have those discussion type questions built into it. Now, maybe you're asking the question, why Habakkuk? Maybe you've never even heard of the book of Habakkuk. It seems like a strange little book. Why would we look at it? Well, as I said, for one, minor prophets, of which Habakkuk is one, those are often very neglected parts of the Bible. Here's a list of the minor prophets. You see those there. These are 12 books in the Old Testament, and they're mainly fairly short books, and they're full of some really interesting prophetic passages that are kind of intimidating to some people, and so they're often neglected, and many people aren't very familiar with these books. So we thought, what a great place to try to dig into something that maybe you're not that familiar with. But here's another reason. These books, the minor prophets in general, and the book of Habakkuk in particular, are full of just beautiful, rich, powerful imagery and poetry and symbolism. Again, much of it that might seem very foreign and strange to you. That's what we're going to try to unpack as we look at the study. What does some of this symbolism and this poetry mean? But there's really some very powerful stuff in this book here, and some really great literature to try to dig into. But also, I think maybe the most important reason why I'm excited about this book is because the situation in which Habakkuk found himself is in many ways very similar to the situation that we find ourselves today in our culture, and that many of us as individuals find ourselves in, and yet he responds to this situation in a very unique way. Now, we're going to talk in the next video more about the kind of context and the general setup for this book, but in a sense, what's going on in this book is it's written to a group of people who knew God. They were sort of a religious people, but over time they had lost their real zeal for honoring God with their life. They sort of knew about God from afar, but they really weren't following God. They certainly weren't living like they were in a relationship with God, and so to them, religion had become sort of this cold, dead experience where they were very spiritually apathetic. They believed in God. They had a form of religion, but they were fairly spiritually complacent and apathetic. And again, I think that's very reminiscent of our culture today. We have a lot of people in our world who would call themselves religious. They might even say they're Christian. They believe in God, but God really doesn't play a very big role in their life. They probably don't live their lives as if they're in a relationship with God, and they've sort of grown spiritually complacent or spiritually apathetic, where God's sort of in the back burner of their life, or he's sort of compartmentalized, and you'll give God an hour on Sunday, but that's about it. And if that is your relationship with God, it will grow very cold very quickly, and it will lead you to some very dangerous places. And that's what we see happen for the people of Israel in the book of Habakkuk. And yet, when Habakkuk sees this, Habakkuk is a prophet, and he responds in a very unique way, in that he doesn't allow himself to fall into that trap. Even though he sees it all around him, he doesn't want to go there, and instead he cries out to God very passionately. He cries out boldly, and he's actually kind of upset with God. We'll talk about that. But ultimately, he calls out to God in a very humble way, and he seeks God's help and guidance through this. And so I think that his response can teach us a lot today and how we deal with this in our own lives. And so here's some questions for you to think about. One, maybe think about if you see any signs of spiritual complacency in your own life. And if so, what does that look like? What are some of the signs of spiritual complacency or apathy that maybe you see in your own life or in the lives of others? And what has been your response to this? Does that matter to you? So that's kind of a big picture of where we're going to be going in this study. In the next video, we're going to get more into the specifics of the context, but I'm really looking forward to this study. I think you'll be blessed by it.